Hey everybody, welcome to eTrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the CURT 2-bike platform rack for electric bikes here on our 2022 Chevy Trailblazer. So this is going to be a pretty decent way, guys, for you to get your heavy e-bikes up on the back of your vehicle. Now, the things I do like about this platform rack, we are going to have 130 pounds of overall weight capacity. That puts us at about 65 pounds per bike, which is going to be excellent for our big old heavy e-bikes that we want to get on here. Because I think a lot of us are starting to see those e-bikes already kind of getting past that standard 60-pound weight capacity that we see on a lot of the other carriers out there, and starting again just to get a little heavier and heavier. So nice to see a platform that's actually kind of going up into that weight capacity. Now, if you're comparing this to probably the only other one out there that I know of that has that higher weight capacity that's going to be pretty easily and accessible for you, is going to be something like the Yakima on-ramp. Now, that's going to have a 66-pound per bike capacity, which is, again, great for your e-bikes. Now, one thing I like about that as well, we're going to have a ramp that actually helps assist us get our electric bikes onto our platform. As it stands with the CURT one here, we are going to still have to find the gumption within ourselves to actually get it up here on our platform. So, not going to be the end of the world. We don't have too much height to travel there. However, again, if you guys are having trouble with these heavier and heavier bikes, I might look at something like that Yakima on-ramp. What about that we have this guy, though? We do have a front tire hold system. So really do like how this works. Going to make it a lot easier to actually clamp onto a variety of different bikes out there, including things like your carbon frame bikes, because we don't have any frame contact. That won't end up warping or deteriorating that carbon frame, and therefore we're not going to be putting any pressure on it and breaking it, which is great. And if you do have any women's bikes, step-through bikes, or kids' bikes that have regular frames as well, we don't have to worry about that, right? As long as we have one good front wheel, we're going to have an A-OK time actually holding onto it. Now, on the ends here of each one of your arms, you also are going to have a little cable lock that comes included. I will say, this is probably only going to keep honest people honest, just something to make sure that while you're stopping at a gas stop, it stays on the back of your carrier. Not very, very intense, but again, a little security can go a long way, and those, again, will be key to like, which is excellent. So one thing you can do as well is kind of store it in that position right there. It does a great job of holding itself. You can see, though, going the other way, it can dip down just a little bit, not too far to actually hit the other ground, which is great. Here on our back cradles, we do have an adjustable cradle. So I do like how we have the versatility to kind of account for our different wheelbases, right? So if we have somebody a little shorter come along with us, going to be okay to bring that in. And, of course, we need to widen out for those big old mountain bikes or anything like that. We actually can, which gives us the room to do so. Now, here at the front, though, we actually do have a very severe incline. So severe, in fact, that I've had a couple bikes like to kind of roll away from me, and I'll kind of show you guys that later on as we go to take down our bike. It is just a little intense. Now, what's great about it, if you do have a really long wheelbase, you're going to have a really good securance on it on that back end, right? Because it's not going to be able to fall off because we have such a good cradle. We do have an 18C standard groove in there. It's widening out just a little bit to about 4.5 inches or so, which is definitely great. And I think that's one thing that this bike rack kind of has over something even like that Yakima on-ramp. It is quite large. So your bigger e-bikes here are going to have those fatter tires, are just going to be a little bit wider and bigger. So it's nice that it actually is starting to like kind of compensate for that and being a little bit bigger, because I think that's the issue you're going to see for something like that Yakima on-ramp. But overall, pretty simple solution. I do kind of like sticking these guys underneath here. Gives it a nice clean look. And that way it's not popping around, which is great. Now, something that's awesome about this guy, we actually can tilt it away from our vehicle to do that. We have a little handle here. We just simply want to pull that handle in. There's a little tab, and then we pull it towards us. That lets us drop this down. Now, I will say on the Trailblazer here, we're almost having contact right there with the ground. So the hitch already sitting a little low. Nice that we don't have that contact, but, you know, find yourself parking somewhere where there's an incline or anything, you might see a little bit of interaction there. So that's something I would kind of watch out for. But now I can get to the back here, and I can open up my hatch. That's going to have access here to those bike helmets, coolers, anything else I might need on the inside. And it does become a little bit easier than storing your bike on the inside of your Trailblazer, which is great. So I do like to see that. That makes it a lot easier, even if you're at a gas stop or just running some errands. And to walk it up, all we have to do, support it, walk it. It's going to click itself into position, and just like that, it's nice and secure, which is great. Now, it's not going to take me too much time to get the bike off. Before we do, though, let's go ahead and see how it's interacting here on the back of our Trailblazer. So, definitely seeing a little bit of interaction here with our taillights. Now, that's something that's going to happen with almost any carrier out there, though, so definitely do keep that in mind. We are seeing a little bit of interaction here with that rear window, but again, our Trailblazer really doesn't sit that high up, right? It's pretty low to the ground, so I think that's going to be an issue you're going to run into with almost any carrier out there. Well, to get the bike released, I'm going to start here with the back strap. I do like the padding they give you on these straps as well, protecting that rim. And one thing that's nice, these are actually very, very long straps. So even your fatter bike tires probably going to have an easier time with this one. And again, that's nice because our e-bikes are getting bigger and heavier as we go. To release the front, though, that is going to bring us to our last hold on our bike. Let's make sure we're doing a good job of holding onto it. We don't want it tilting into our vehicle or ourselves. And like I said earlier, it does kind of like to roll forward a little bit. So maybe I can show you guys here. Might have the same interaction here today. But all I got to do, press on that lever, slide that up. And as you can see, I kind of let go. Sometimes it likes to do that right there. Just kind of rolls forward because of that incline. So let's make sure we're doing a good job of holding onto it. But all we got to do, support our bike, walk it off, and we're already ready to ride. Another one thing I'll say, sometimes those straps like to get in the way. Not too bad though, because they are quite large. And if you need to, you can always kind of stick them just like that to get them out of the way and then bring them over. Definitely not going to be too bad to actually run those guys in, which is great to see. Just going to store those guys like so to go ahead and clean it up. But with any hitch-mounted accessory, we have a couple dimensions to keep in mind. The big ones are going to be how far are we from our vehicle and, of course, how much clearance do we have to the ground. Now, we already know we are sitting a little close to the ground already because of our Trailblazer and where our hitch is. So let's go ahead and see our clearance here today from the ground to the underside here at the furthest point of our carrier. That's putting us at 16.5 inches. However, our handle here very close to the ground already, and that is about 13.25 of an inch to the ground. So personally, don't really like that. I wish CURT had done something maybe where the handles, I don't know, sticking up to the sky seems a little bad, just in terms of, you know, how it's going to interact with our platform. But as it stands, that could definitely be a clearance issue we need to look out for. So as those front wheels go up, the rear will go down, and so will your hitch-mounted accessories. If you guys find yourself approaching a very steep incline, I would just take it nice and slow to start. That way, we're not having any interaction there with that handle, and therefore we're not damaging our carrier or our bikes. But let's go ahead and take a look from the back of our Trailblazer here. From the bumper to the very end of our carrier is going to give us our length, and that's going to be working with here today right at 35 inches. So definitely a little bit of length being added to the back here of our Trailblazer. Again, we have a very long shank there on the underside, so that's kind of what's getting you so far from here. I will say that's a little bit longer than you might see from a variety of other carriers out here. Something like the CURT Envy, I think, is probably not going to be quite as long. So definitely a lot of length to kind of have to consider here on the back of your Trailblazer. But we do have a way of shortening it up as well. We simply come right back to that handle, press in again on that tab on the side here. That's going to release that safety, allow me to pull this up. And instead of going down, I can walk it up into position here. Now you're going to have a little rattle in this position, and I don't think you're really going to hear this too much, especially as we are combating that road shake just a little bit, which is great. But that's going to shorten down our length a lot. Now from the back of my carrier here, or I'm sorry, my bumper, to the very end of our carrier and to the end of our handle, that's going to be putting us, if I can get my tape measure to work with me, about 15.75 of an inch there on the back end. So that handle giving you quite a little bit of protrusion there. Definitely something to have to kind of counteract and keep in mind. Again, probably going to make this easy to pull in the garage, but I definitely think that is quite a lot of length here on the back of our vehicle. That'd be something I'd have to check, of course, when we get it inside our garage. Might be a nice little thing just to run from the back of your bumper to make sure you actually are having the clearance there. Moving our way down to the inside, though, here we can see that we do have a 2-inch shank here today, held in, of course, by our little hitch pin and clip. So we have this little spring clip that's just holding in that retainment pin. Now that's really not doing any real work for us other than keeping us aligned. Down here is where all the real work's being done. This is our anti-rattle knob. All we have to do, keep tightening it right to tighten it up, and left, of course, to loosen it. What that's doing is taking that little cam on the inside of our shank, pushing it up against our receiver, taking all that shake and play out. And as you guys can see, as I give this a shake, it's shaking the entirety of our Trailblazer, making sure we're all aligned. And therefore, we have a nice, smoother ride for ourselves, our bike rack, but especially our bikes. Now that knob also does have a locking cord to go ahead and secure your carrier to your vehicle, so that way when you leave it unattended, it'll be right there where you left it. And of course, that with conjunction of your cable locks is going to make it an easier time of making sure your bike stay on the back of your vehicle while you're not there. Overall, I think the CURT 2 bike platform rack is decent if it's finding the right niche for you. And what that is, if you have a little bit of a heavier e-bike or even just a bigger bike that you want to go ahead and actually fit on here, I think you can't beat the weight capacity that this is offering you, even if you're comparing it to something premium like the CURT NV 2.0, right? That only has a 60-pound weight capacity. So I really do like how we're getting a little bit higher, a little bit more beefy for our bigger bikes that we're bringing with us. But that's about where all the pros kind of stop, in my opinion, for this guy. You're just kind of seeing a lot of these standard features on a lot of different carriers that just don't really seem up to par. Now, what I do like about it, it is a little bit bigger, like I said, and in that regards, that's the big difference for me, and that's the thing I would compare between this and the Yakima on-ramp, is if your bike is a little bit bigger, this might be the solution for you. Otherwise, I think a variety of us out there are going to have a better time with that Yakima on-ramp, as it just seems more inclined to actually help us with our bigger, heavier e-bikes. Otherwise, though, guys, I think that about does it for our look here today at the CURT 2 bike platform rack for electric bikes here on the back of our 2022 Chevy Trailblazer. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.